We don't even know who's going to be Colorado's quarterback next year, but is it too early to look ahead to the 2029, 2030 class?
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I'm your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so that way you don't miss out on a moment of the coverage. Let's dive right into the Manning buzz, right? I think there's a fun story out there right now, and obviously we're still a ways away from happening, but it just got me thinking. It got the brain juices flowing. It's like, oh, would there be a more dynamic duo in college football than Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, and a Manning at quarterback? Now, you may be thinking I'm talking about Arch Manning at Texas and somehow Colorado's going to get him and it's going to be really cool and blah, blah, blah. No, it's not Arch Manning. It's his younger cousin, Marshall. Now, Marshall is 13 years old. He's currently, I think that would put him in 8th grade-ish, and he's already a dog. Let's take a look at what Marshall was doing at the Pro Bowl, because he was thrown to some pros, making some noise, and I think it was a bit shocking to see how good he was, and so I wanted you guys to see, and he caught Colorado's eye already.
Yep. Blur.
I mean, absolutely just launching.
Whoa. Okay.
Just absolutely launching passes to all pro caliber receivers, and clearly he's the next Manning, right? We had Archie, we had Peyton, we had Eli, there was even Cooper in there, but now there's Marshall Manning. And so Corey Phillips, who is Colorado's director of player personnel, quoted the tweet and says, "My eyes don't lie. Can somebody get me in contact with young Marshall's father so I could do it the right way?" And then he said, #ScoBuffs, #ScoBuffs, #let me offer him now, #I know a baller when I see one. And so this got me thinking, one, how crazy would it be if Colorado sent out an offer to an 8th grader who happens to be the son of Peyton Manning? He's a Colorado native, so they don't have to go too far to see him, right? I think that's kind of the plus of Peyton Manning spending some time with the Broncos, is he clearly liked it in Denver because that's apparently where he resides. And so, one, how cool would it be for there to be a Manning at quarterback at Colorado, right? Look at Arch Manning. Right now, he has 2 career starts under his belt, and he ranks number 1 in all of sports, all of college sports, that is, in NIL valuation over $6 million, right? He has people roaring for him. Like I was one of the games I was assigned to this year. I went to the Texas-Georgia game. When Arch Manning came in for, I think it was like a series, the stadium erupted so loud. I was like, we were vibrating. It felt like I was vibrating. People love them some Mannings. And Arch Manning, although he is a Manning, obviously, he's not a son of Peyton or Eli. He's a son of Cooper, the other brother, who he had, I think it was spinal stenosis, I believe is what it's called. He had a spinal injury that ended his football career, but he was a receiver at Ole Miss. But he was a really good athlete. But Arch Manning isn't obviously the son of Peyton or Eli. This is a son of Peyton Manning. And so I think there'd be even more buzz. So one, you get Peyton Manning's son, who's going to have a lot of buzz because of his last name. You pair him with Deion Sanders, who is without a doubt the most famous coach in college football and probably one of the most famous coaches in football history, even though he's only coached for about 5 seasons. And you just combine those two in Boulder, and I'm telling you right now, the brand would be as strong as ever. Now, this is obviously, we're talking about a 13-year-old here, right? He's playing against 8th graders. He's taking pre-algebra. He probably has braces. You know, he is probably still figuring out things about being an adult, if you know what I mean. He is a youngster. So who knows if he'll end up being a 5-star recruit like his cousin? Who knows if he even sticks with football? That being said, I think if there is a path, because and I think people don't realize this, because some people are probably like, why are we talking about a 7th or 8th grader or freshman in high school? Well, relationships matter. And now more than ever, programs are coming hard with money. They're coming quick with these huge NIL deals. And so you have to figure out a way to not only set yourself apart, but be able to compete with these other programs. And so for a program like Colorado, who doesn't have the financial support that, say, Texas or Tennessee, where his father went, or Ole Miss, where his uncle and grandfather went, Colorado doesn't have the NIL funds to match, to go blow for blow with them. That being said, if they're out there at his games, they offer him early, they show him he's a priority early, maybe Colorado gets a Manning somewhere down the line. And right, if you get a Manning, I mean, just look at Texas, right? There was 5-star, 4-star caliber players lining out the door to play with him. And he sat the bench for 2 years, and people are still excited to go to Texas because they want to play with Arch Manning. They want a bit of that history. And so Marshall Manning, he's a name to look out for. I don't really know anything else about him besides the fact that he's a twin. His huddle profile has him listed as an Inglewood, Colorado native, which is about 45 minutes away from Boulder. If he's ranked as a top recruit in the country, and Colorado has a chance, I mean, anytime you have a chance with the number one recruit in the country, and obviously I don't know what his ranking will be, but we'll just, for S&Gs, we'll pretend he's going to be number one. Anytime you have a chance with number one, that means you have a chance with number 2 through 300, right? All these guys, they like to team up together. So Colorado in the Manning business, I'd love to see it, because I think I honestly think Deion Sanders coaching a Manning may be more popular than him coaching his own son, Travis Hunter. It might be crazy to say, but the Manning name could be, as a family, the most famous in football history. So if Colorado could get them a piece of it, why not? So we'll see how that develops. Does Mr. Phillips send an offer to Manning, to Marshall Manning? We'll see. But I think they should. Let's talk about Colorado's schedule. We got a little bit of information about it on social media today. Is it hard? Is it easy? I'll tell you what I think. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by FanDuel. Let me tell you about FanDuel, because Super Bowl 59 is here. There's one game, 2 teams, and endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easier to get in on the action with live betting all game long. You can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's the icing on the cake. So download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 59. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, so make sure to like, subscribe, and follow, so that way you don't miss out on a moment of the coverage. And join the community. Become an everydayer. If you don't know what an everydayer is, they're the people that comment, they subscribe, they like. We have fun. We discuss things in the comment section all the time, and whether we agree or disagree, we have some fun. The Colorado Buffaloes will get their full Big 12 schedule tomorrow, but we do know a couple of things as of today, thanks to Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports. He said, here's an early sneak peek at Colorado's 2025 schedule set for release Tuesday. Deion Sanders and the Buffs will host BYU on September 27th in a rematch of the Alamo Bowl, and they'll open Big 12 play at Houston on September 13th. Now, we obviously don't have the full schedule, but I'm going to run you through some of the games, and I'm going to pick out the 4 games that I think are going to be difficult, and then the 3 games that I'm most excited for. Let's start with the games I'm excited for. One, Arizona State, right? Colorado gets to play them at home. Colorado beat them 2 years ago. This past year, they didn't play each other. Arizona State goes on to win the Big 12 title. Colorado was in contention to get there, but obviously it did not work out for them. I'm interested to see how Colorado stacks up, because Arizona State, by all intents and purposes, they are probably the best team in the Big 12 right now. I think they returned a ton of production from this past year. They won the Big 12 title. They lose Cam Scadaboo, so we'll see how much of an impact that is, because I think even though they return like 90% of everything else, losing that 10% is a big deal. But anytime you get a crack at the champs, you want it. So that's the first game I'm most excited for. Second game, Georgia Tech, which this is the season opener, Colorado versus Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, I think, I'm getting the hiccups now. I think Georgia Tech was an underrated team, and I felt like they were close, right? They came close to beating Georgia. They just had so many moments where it's like, it just did not go their way. Like if a couple bounces go their way, they get a stop here or there. They're in the playoff, right? They're playing for an ACC title. So I think that'll be a good test for Colorado. I think that's a tough way to open the season is playing Georgia Tech right out of the gates because Georgia Tech's going to be up for this game. It's going to be a nationally televised game. It's going to be you're playing a Power 5 opponent or Power 4 opponent, excuse me. So anytime you do that, week one, it's kind of like, okay, there's no time to sleepwalk your way through this. It's like you got to wake up, you got to step up right away. So those are the first two games I'm most excited about. Then I'm looking at the game at West Virginia. I don't know why I'm so intrigued by this West Virginia program, but Rich Rod has them fired up. Like he has Pat McAfee having these recruits come on his show to announce their commitments. He's got Adam Packman-Jones just juicing up the community about West Virginia. Like West Virginia is buzzing. Now it's not like that Deion Sanders buzz, but at the same time they're excited. So that's going to be a tough road game for Colorado at West Virginia, pretty far from Colorado to Morgantown. So we'll see if Colorado is affected by travel or anything at all. Now let's talk about the four most difficult games on the schedule. One, Georgia Tech's already one of them. I kind of touched on it. Anytime you open the season with the Power 4 opponent, it's a little bit difficult, right? You don't have that FCS team that you could beat up by 60 to sort of work out some kinks and figure some things out. It's kind of like, hey, this is wake up, get ready. We're starting right now. So I think that's an interesting way to start the season for the Buffs. The next game that I think is difficult is that BYU game. BYU dismantled Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter and all those Colorado guys who played really well this past season, right? BYU made it look easy. So does BYU have Colorado's number? It's going to be a tough one. They get them at home though. So that'll be, I think, an advantage. I think this is probably going to be Colorado's toughest road game, which is at Kansas State. The Buffs should have beat Kansas State this past year, but that's neither here nor there. They ended up giving up a game-winning touchdown with a couple minutes left, or even possibly even less time. On the road, the Little Apple, I think that's probably Colorado's toughest road game of the year, if I'm being completely honest. And then lastly, Iowa State. For whatever reason, Iowa State always is really good. And they just had their best season in program history. They returned their quarterback, even though he had a bunch of NIL offers to transfer. So those are the games that I think stand out. And then those are the games that I think are going to be difficult. You guys comment below, which game do you think will be the most difficult for Colorado? Because obviously there's a lot of things going on, right? You can't just assume that Colorado is going to be good, but you also can't assume that, or you can't just assume that Colorado is going to win every game. But at the same time, you have to respect some of these new programs and determine. You sort of have to determine how we feel about them from an early perspective. And so right now, those are the games from January or February 3rd, 2025, way ahead. Those are the games that stand out to me. You guys let me know what you think. When we come back, Coach Prime was FaceTiming with the 5-star. What does that mean? So if you guys didn't see this, Coach Prime he's pursuing some big recruits. And one of them that stands out, and they talked on Zoom or FaceTime or whatever, is 5-star linebacker out of Grayson, Georgia, or out of Lawrenceville, Georgia, Grayson High School, is Tyler Atkinson. He's a 5-star linebacker, has Ohio State, Georgia, USC, Tennessee, Clemson. All these programs are coming after him. But even with all those big names, he was talking to Coach Prime. And so this is what he told On3. Coach Prime and I spent some time talking on a Zoom call. It was really dope to get a chance to chop it up with him. Afterward, he had to get ready for a show, which plays a big part in his recruiting. He said, Coach Prime told me the only high school players that he recruits are those real dogs and are ready to play at the next level and serious about their path like myself. He said, otherwise, he is recruiting in the portal. He said he wants me to know that they're coming. He's going to be intentional with my recruitment and wants to make sure everything fits like a key to a lock. His energy is contagious, and it really sparked my interest to get out to Boulder this spring. And for those of you who maybe aren't too familiar with this 2026 class, Atkins is a number 9 player in the country. So top 10 guy. He ranks as the number 1 linebacker, number 1 player in the state of Georgia, according to On3's industry rankings. He's ranked as a number 1 linebacker by every recruiting outlet except for 24/7 Sports, who has him as the number 2 guy. His lowest recruiting ranking among the 4 big sites is 18. So 24/7 has him at 18, On3 14, ESPN has him at 9, Rivals 15, and he's already got the measurables 6'2", 205, and he's just one of those guys where if Coach Prime is putting in this much effort right away, and I think this is a new strategy, because I wouldn't say Coach Prime doesn't get involved with 5 stars early, but it is interesting to see him going after someone this soon in the recruiting process. Like, it usually feels like Colorado's making late pushes, but he has almost 50 offers already, if not 50. His NFL comparison is Roquan Smith, and then this is 24/7's breakdown of him. Highly productive inside linebacker. Instincts and athleticism. Owns more of a streamlined build at this stage, but is blessed with a longer film and should have no issues eventually carrying 225 or more. Quick to locate the football with his field awareness and will mirror ball carries with his rare stop ability and exceptional lateral burst. Has proven to be rather effective on the blitz, as he will slip and dip around blockers before getting to the quarterback. Not one that has been asked to man up a ton of coverage, but is comfortable dropping back into space and shading passing lanes, and continues saying must keep improving playing strength and get better at attacking college-sized linemen, but he should be viewed as a playmaking second-level defender that could rack up stops all over the field like he's been doing since he's a freshman. Again, super highly touted guy. Georgia's currently the favorite according to 24/7 Sports, so maybe that's why Coach Prime feels the need to get involved so quickly. But Colorado, I like that they're taking big swings, because at the end of the day, how else do you compete with the best programs than by recruiting like one of the best programs? And so they put together a really impressive class this past year, and they're already sending out some really big offers this year. They don't have any 2026 commits yet, which isn't too out of the ordinary. But if you're a Colorado fan, you have to like that Deion Sanders is pursuing these top guys, because for every 10 of them, you'll probably hit on 1, right? Or 2, right? You get Julian Lewis, and then you get a lot of pieces around him. Or maybe you get Cormani McClain and Julian Lewis in the same class. Obviously, they were different classes, but it's really hard to get multiple of these guys. But once you do, it makes it easier to get the others, because all of a sudden, these kids now more than ever, they're in group chats, they're in posting each other on Instagram. They're going, oh, Kevin's going here, so I got to go there. Or, oh, Zach's going here, so maybe I should go there. So I really think that this is a big deal for Colorado. I think we're going to see, and I don't really know if this is intentional or if Coach Prime is really starting to put an emphasis more on high school recruiting, but I've been seeing a lot of Colorado offers flowing out lately. So if Colorado is sort of this understanding that, like, hey, we need to figure out a way to get more recruits quicker, so that way we're not working with a limited number of options, that'll help us develop these guys quicker. That'll help us get them on the field quicker. That'll help us put together better classes. Aside from Atkins, Colorado has also received some pretty big news about elite wide receiver Cedrian Morgan, I believe is how you say his name, 4-star receiver. He dropped his top 10, and it's a who's who list. It's Auburn, Ohio State, Florida, Clemson, Colorado, Bama, Tennessee, Georgia, Oregon, and Miami. 6'5", 210 pounds. So this guy is absolutely massive. And who couldn't use a 6'5" receiver? So he's already visited Bama. He's a number 19 guy in the country. Will probably be a 5-star. Number 3 receiver in the class. Number 2 recruit from the state of Bama. So Colorado has a lot of work cut out for them. Alabama's going to be pushing hard for him. All those southern schools are going to be looking to keep him in the South. He's 6'5", though. Every quarterback wants a big target like that to throw to. And Colorado has obviously had their fair share of talent, had their fair share of talent walk through the program at receiver. They've also sent out an offer to 4-star tight end Carson Sneed, and he's a Tennessee commit too. So they're already trying to flip people, and then they're viewed as high on the list for 4-star interior offense lineman. I think it's Zyke Helton. So Colorado making moves. We'll see how it works out, pays off. I'll be covering Colorado recruiting every step of the way and keeping you guys updated, so that way you know who the future Buffs are and who maybe scorns the Buffs, right? Who maybe doesn't sign with the Buffs. But I'll keep you guys updated, so make sure to like, subscribe, and follow, so that way you don't miss out on a moment of the coverage. Appreciate all you guys for tuning in, making me your first listen. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. We're going to have a really cool interview, hopefully this week, possibly next week. We'll see how schedules work out. But this has been Locked on Buffs. I hope all of you have a great start to your week.